Hello there, I've put this video together because I keep getting the same question over and over again. Can I teach you how to do covert hypnosis? Well, the simple answer to this is that I could, but I really don't want to. And the reasons for this is because my hypnotic experience is primarily in stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy, so I prefer to teach that because that's what I'm best at. I do use conversational hypnosis, but rather than teach you how to do it myself, I'd rather put you onto the people that I think can teach you a lot better than I can. It just makes a lot more sense. So, what I've done over quite a long time this has taken me, is I've reviewed 7 of what I consider to be the best covert conversational hypnosis courses on the internet. I didn't buy all of these courses. I actually contacted the people that sell them, said I'm interested in doing a review, told them who I was, and the majority of the people just sent me the courses free of charge, so I got to look through them. The ones that didn't reply to me, I had to go and buy their product. So I went through the same process you'd have to go to. But what I did once I'd finished the review is I went through the refund policy and got my money back, because I wanted to make sure that if you decide to purchase one of these courses and it ends up not being for you, you can get your money back. So I didn't want to recommend anything that might be a little bit of a scam just to get your cash and then the person's just going to run away with it. So the courses that I reviewed, of the 7 on my list, 5 of them really were not practical, and I'll tell you why. They work. The kind of material that they're giving you and the kind of things that they're telling you to say to people would work. They make sense from a hypnotic point of view, but they're just not practical. This is stuff, I mean, they give you word-for-word scripts that you can go out and use on people. There's a technique called the hammer. You've probably heard of them yourself. There's loads and loads of different little scripts that you can go out and unleash on the public. And they're for varying situations, like getting upgrades on flights, getting dates, that kind of stuff. But from those 5 courses, the kind of scripts that they give you, they're the sort of stuff that you just would never say in the real world. And if you ever said it to someone, you'd just feel like a complete idiot. This material it's just not real life. It would work if you used it, but the chances of you using it are just so slim because it's so out of context with normal conversation. There were 2 courses that didn't do this, and these 2 courses gave you very, very practical scripts that you can use in everyday situations and you wouldn't sound like an idiot. So they're really the only 2 that I want to focus on this review, because I think they're the only 2 that are practical. These got practical applications in the real world. The rest of them, it's really interesting stuff, and the hypnotic language behind the scripts is sound and it would work, but you're doing this covert hypnosis. The purpose of it is so the other person doesn't know that you're doing anything unusual, so it's got to sound like a normal conversation, and these 2 courses are the only 2 that did that. The 2 courses, in no particular order, one of them is Stephen Peliari's course, which is called Covert Hypnosis, very simply. Well, I think it might be called The Art of Covert Hypnosis. And the other one is Igor Ledochowski, whose course is called Conversational Hypnosis. Now, if you've been researching this kind of material for any amount of time, I'll be very surprised if you haven't already got Igor Ledochowski's course, because it is so popular. So, these courses are very different. And what primarily makes them very different is Steve and Igor are completely different people. They come from different backgrounds, they seem to have different goals, they've got different ideas about the applications of this kind of material. So I'm going to quickly cover that first of all, and you'll be able to see whether or not Steve's course or Igor's course is going to be more suitable for you. Both of these courses are downloadable. They're both courses that were originally being sold in CD format. You could buy, there's lots of CDs on both the courses and books and all that kind of material, and you could buy the whole thing as a package. They're both quite expensive, but what both of these guys have done is they've had all of the courses transcripted out into PDF files, and they've created audio MP3 files that you can download from the internet. So this knocks the price down, so for that reason, over anything else, it gives them one up on all the other courses I reviewed. But it means that you can get them straight away. So you can download the material, you can start working through it immediately, and you can get started now rather than having to wait for something to come through the post. So both of them do that. So first of all, I want to address Stephen Peliari. Steve is a showman, and he is a Vegas style hypnotist. He does cold reading, which is, I don't know if you're aware of what cold reading is, but it's when people appear to be psychic and they tell you things about yourself, and it's really, really impressive, and they get some amazing results. As part of his course, he also includes a book which teaches you how to do this cold reading process. This is really, really valuable stuff, because it's interesting to learn it yourself, but it protects you from other people doing it on you, and you can also do it for other people. That's got 2 benefits. First of all, you can pretend to be psychic, which is a hell of a lot of fun. But secondly, you can use these techniques on a person, and you can use it as an icebreaker, And then afterwards you can say, that was all nonsense, I'm not psychic, but let me tell you how I did it. And this is a really good lead into talking about psychology, mind control, and the way the mind works. So it's a brilliant way of talking to people about these subjects at quite a deep level and breaking the ice. It's a really fantastic little tool. So on Steve's website, you don't have to buy anything. You can get that cold reading course completely free. It's just a PDF ebook that you can download. So it is included as part of his course, but if you wanted to just pop over to his site and download that, you can get that part for free. So if you do choose to go for Igor's course, still pop over to Steve's website and get yourself his cold reading book. Now, I'm going to stick with Steve's course for a little bit longer because the material in Steve's course, it's very, very evident that he comes from a showman background. The material is very look at me, look at what I can do, that kind of stuff. So it appeals to the ego. I think generally guys between the ages of about 18 to 30 are just going to love this stuff. There's one CD on the course that focuses on hypnotic seduction. It's really practical. It tells you exactly what you have to do, you have to say, the ways that you have to touch people in order to anchor certain emotions and feelings to them, and it goes through all this step by step. It's completely scripted out, and this stuff works. It is really, really interesting to read, but if you're in a situation where you haven't got a partner and you want to find one, then I would really, really recommend that you go through this. It's not sleazy, and it is the kind of, the content of this script is the sort of stuff that you would say to someone in real life, and it wouldn't sound cheesy, it wouldn't sound out of place. So you really can apply this, go through the scripts, go to a nightclub and just go and chat to someone using this script, and it's going to work. Now, I'm not talking about the pick-up artist material here, I'm not talking about cheesy chatterbombs or that kind of stuff. It's just like having a normal conversation that is layered with hypnotic language patterns, subliminal messages, embedded commands, NLP techniques that causes the outcome to be that that person finds you desirable. Now, this is a subject that I really need to talk about in a little bit more depth. When we talk about covert hypnosis, that's the one that comes to mind, seducing people. And usually people say, oh, it's unethical, it's wrong, it's sleazy, and there's a lot of negative adjectives which are used to describe this particular area of covert hypnosis. But I want you to look at it this way. I want to reframe this a little bit. I've got a friend who's in his late 30s, and I've known him since he was probably 20, 21, 22, and he's always, for as long as I've known him, been single. I've never known him to have a girlfriend. He is a fantastic guy. He's very passionate about life. He's one of the most loyal people I've ever met. He's always there for you, he'll do things for you, he's incredibly genuine, and he's really, really honest. Now, he's a good catch. I'm amazed he's not married. And when he finally does get married, I think he's going to make a fantastic husband for somebody. But he's also incredibly shy, so he doesn't approach people. If someone approaches him, he gets flustered, he doesn't know what to say, and he makes himself look a little bit of a fool. Now, I have said time and time and time again, why don't you use these techniques? Use covert hypnotic techniques, seduction, hypnosis, to get your foot in the door, just get chatting with somebody. Yet he is so against it because it goes against his moral beliefs about what's right ethically. Now, the way he sees it is though he would be controlling someone's mind to do something that's against their will. So he's manipulating someone into liking him when perhaps they wouldn't really like him. But that's not what it is. What he would be doing is getting his foot in the door so that he could present the real him to somebody. So if you're attracted to this material for the purposes of seduction, bear this in mind. If you use hypnosis to seduce somebody, there's no way this is going to develop into a relationship unless you're the kind of person underneath that is the sort of person that someone would want to be in a relationship with. Because you just can't fake this stuff. Yes, hypnosis will get your foot in the door, it will get you noticed, it will get people to like you, but if you can't follow it up with a personality that supports that, it's going to go nowhere. So this particularly appeals to people that they're genuinely nice people on the inside, they've got a lot to offer, but they're probably a little bit too shy to go up and break the ice with somebody. So specifically, Stephen Peliari's course is, I mean, that's not all it does, but if that's the kind of reason you're attracted to covert hypnosis, then go down that avenue and get a hold of Steve's course, because you really, really won't regret it, because that one CD alone is worth the price of this course, because this can allow you to break the ice with someone that becomes the love of your life, that you could end up getting married because of this material, and that's something that's kind of too good to miss. And I know there are ethical issues and people say, oh, it's not right to manipulate someone and get them to like you when perhaps they don't, but that's not what happens. It's just getting your foot in. Now, I've got to admit, I mean, I've been with my partner for just over 11 years now, but when I was single, when I was in my teens, I did this kind of stuff all the time. Now, I never did it, and then afterwards someone says, "Oh, you're actually a jerk, this is really sleazy, it's awful." I just did it to be honest. I was dead shy, so I used it in that context. I ended up having lots of quite long relationships, really fantastic relationships, just because I kicked them off by using these techniques to be able to get through the barrier of just simply going up and talking to somebody. So that's a real bonus of Stephen Peliari's course. Also, you get the cold reader material in there. But what I will say about this course, it really does come across as a bit showmanship, because he's a Las Vegas style hypnotist. He's a stage hypnotist and mentalist. Not a very nice word, mentalist, but he's a mental illusionist, and he does a lot of mind control techniques. The kind of stuff that Derren Brown does, where there's not really anything psychic going on, but he gives the illusion that there is. So that's what he does. He teaches you how to do all those kind of things, and it's really worth a look in on that one. Primarily over anything else, simply because the patterns that he gives you will work in an everyday situation. Now, the other course that I want to talk about is Igor Ledochowski's Conversational Hypnosis course. Wow, if you've not got this course already and you are serious about hypnosis, then this is a must-have. It is huge. It's incredible. When you first get this, it's amazingly overwhelming, and it is really intimidating. But I would say what you should do with this material, I mean, Stephen's course is much more aimed at the beginner. Igor's course will work for a beginner, but there's so much in-depth material that goes to quite an advanced level in there that it's very intimidating when you first start. I mean, even when you first download the material, there's so much stuff to get through. You just start to think, oh, I've opened up a whole kettle of worms here and I'm never going to get through it. But when you start getting into the material, that's really not what happens. The material is laid out sequentially, and it starts off very simple, and it builds up gradually. In fact, when I started doing my review, I've had Igor's course for years, and when I very first went through this material, I listened to the first couple of CDs and I just thought, well, this is rubbish, it's just too basic. And it wasn't until probably around about CD 4 that I started really getting something from it. But I mean, I've been a hypnotist for 20 years, so pretty much everything that was in the CDs I already knew anyway, so it just felt like it was too basic to begin with. But as you persist with it, it builds. And one of the things that Igor himself says, which I think is incredibly valuable, and this is a really good metaphor, when we're using conversational hypnosis, it's each of the patterns that he teaches you, and these are progressive throughout the CDs, is like layering on another piece of persuasion. Now, he talks about a normal conversation with hypnotic patterns laid into it as having like a pencil that you can snap. If you've just got a normal conversation, it's very easy for someone to resist what you're trying to get them to do. Just as it's easy to snap a pencil. However, once you start laying in these hypnotic language patterns, that's like taking more pencils, and I mean, you only need to get to 4, 5 or 6 where it's really difficult to snap, and it's very powerful. And of course, when we're talking about the hypnosis here, the hypnosis becomes incredibly difficult for the other person to resist. So this is really valuable stuff. But if you take each one of these patterns by itself, they're not very effective at all. So when you go through Igor's stuff, what you should do, and I mean what Igor recommends himself, is he'll teach you one pattern, and then he'll get you to go out and have conversations with people throughout your normal day. He'll give you exercises to follow where you apply this specific pattern that you've learned into the conversation. So you've got these goals to do, and the reason that he does this is it becomes second nature. So you start being able to apply these without having to think about them. So once you've done that, you've got one pattern in there, it then introduces you to another pattern, and that gets layered on top. So your conversation is becoming more powerful. Now, over time, and this does take time, you're not just going to download this, go through it and be able to do it by the end of this evening. It's nothing like that. This is something that you will have to put the effort and the work into. But if you're really serious, this material you cannot get better than this. But over time, these things layer. And it gets to a point where your normal conversation includes these patterns so effectively that you really don't even have to think about it. All you've got to do is have your goal in mind, whatever you want the person to do, and then you go through the normal conversation, all the patterns are automatically included in that, and then you get the outcome that you desire. Now, unlike Steve Peliari, Igor Ledochowski, these are very strange names these hypnotists have. Igor, his background is a lawyer. He used to represent people in court, so obviously persuasive language patterns were incredibly important for his job, and he is right at the top of his field in training people how to negotiate. He got paid a huge amount of money for negotiations in the past, and now what he does is he teaches people how to take covert and conversational hypnotic techniques in order to be able to apply them in this field. So we can see here we've got Steve and Igor coming from completely different places. We've got Igor we've got Steve who this sounds a little bit negative, but he's kind of coming a little bit from the ego. It seems to be a bit more that his course is about how can I use hypnosis to get more things in my life and make myself look cool to other people, to impress people, maybe to get laid, and maybe to get other people to be to admire me. So that seems to be the angle that Steve's coming from. There's a lot more stuff in there, but generally that's the impression that you get. It comes from the ego. There's a lot of I want to make myself look good. How can I do that using hypnosis? That's Steve's course. Igor's course is entirely different. The angle that Igor's coming from is totally different. Primarily, it's about win-win situations. How you can have a conversation with somebody where you and the other person can come out better off than how you were before. Now with Igor's material specifically, he talks about things like maybe you're in a business and you've got a couple of employees and one of the employees isn't doing too well and you want to have a chat with them and you've really got to reprimand them, but you want to do it in a way that's going to cause them to be able to get over their problems, work better and feel good about themselves. Now to me, this is the real power of conversational hypnosis, because if you can do that, if you've got to reprimand someone, but you can do it in such a way that causes them to feel good, corrects the problem and gets them to work better, then I mean that is the absolute optimum state of communication. That is your goal in life, is to be able to make win-win situations in any circumstance. So you can apply those kind of techniques in a lot of different situations. For example, I mean one of the things that I do with conversational hypnosis quite regularly is I'll use it on my own clients. When they come to see me and they're telling me about their situation, their problem, before we even start talking about hypnosis or anything like that, just during a little chat over a cup of tea at the beginning of the session, I bombard them with conversational hypnotic techniques so that they will believe that the therapy is going to be successful, they'll actually want to make the change and they'll really, really be looking forward to it. So it totally changes their state of mind. So that's a win-win situation because they end up getting a lot more out of it, it works better for them, it makes my job a hell of a lot easier when we actually go into the hypnotherapy session itself. I also use it in normal everyday situations like getting people to remember things that I don't want them to forget, or getting people to forget stuff that I don't want them to remember. Another thing is getting my niece and nephew to do their homework, to go to bed on time if I'm looking after them, to get people to want to do stuff that's good for them. Now years ago when I had a normal corporate life, back in 2003, that's the last time I sort of worked outside of the hypnotic field, but back then I was still a hypnotist. I became a hypnotist in '92, so I was still using hypnotic techniques, but I used them alongside of my conventional job. Back then I was working for a company called Essential Mortgages, and this is their newsletter. The reason I took that job was to test out covert hypnosis, so this is something I've been using for quite a while. Right here, these are awards. I got stacks of these about being the top associate of the month throughout the time I was working with Essential Mortgages. I only actually worked there for about 6 months, and the first 3 or 4 months of that I had to do legal qualifications exams to do with the financial services industry so I could go out and talk to people about insurance and mortgages. When I went for the job, I was very open about it. I told the guy, the boss, the reason I come for this job is because I am a hypnotist. I'm experimenting with conversational hypnosis techniques and I want to see if I can sell insurance with them. I tell you saw the ching in his eyes. His eyes just lit up, and it was, I mean, the interview was pretty much over there and then, and it was basically a case of when can you start? Because he wasn't a fool. He knew that if I can sell insurance, he's going to get huge commissions out of anything that I do. So once I'd finished my exams, which here, this is when I used to wear glasses. That little picture there is the day that I completed my CMAP qualification so that I could go out and unleash myself on the public. That week I went out and saw some clients, and this is unheard of in this industry. Every client that I saw, I sold £5,000 accident, sickness and unemployment policies. This is term life assurance as well. And once I'd done this, I did that with every mortgage that I managed to write that week, and this went over a period of a couple of months. Within 2 months, I broke every company sales record, and these are insurance sales veterans that have been in the business for 30 years. I'd come up, no idea, I didn't know anything about insurance or mortgage, I didn't even have a mortgage at the time, but immediately outsold all these people by applying conversational hypnosis techniques. Now, I wasn't manipulating people to buy stuff they didn't need. That is unethical and you should never do it. But I was assessing people's situation, and when people were really in a mess and they properly needed these products, I'd reframe the situation to create it so they would want them as opposed to being opposed to buying them. So that got me a huge amount of profit from commissions from sales. So this kind of stuff can be applied into the sales industry. I mean, they called me the Terminator because of the amount of term life insurance I sold, and this is a national company across the UK. And I mean, once I started appearing in these monthly magazines, and I was in all of them, it was kind of shock news on each one that I'd broken a new record. As this started to happen, people from throughout the entire company, all over across the UK, wanted to know my secret. Now, I've not got the magazine from the day that they found out my secret, but the person that writes the magazine found out I was a hypnotist, and there was like, stop press, Steve has been seen coming out of H. Samuel with 10 pocket watches, his secrets have been revealed, and it was a big issue. So then everybody in the company wanted to know about conversational hypnosis. I'm going to tell you a couple of the things that I used to do. You can use embedded commands. The real basic one that you're bound to have seen before is, buy now, I'll guess you will be wondering which is the best product for you. And that includes the buy now subliminal message. So there's an ambiguity there about buying the product. The other one is to, we use very often in hypnosis the phrase, you're unconscious. We use this all the time, I use it on my clients, which is not only saying your unconscious mind, but it's also saying that you are unconscious, so it's a command. But one of the ones that I want to share with you, it's a bit cheeky, but this is something I used to use quite a lot, and this is an anchoring technique. As part of the mortgage job, I used to have to give presentations, and to do this, I used to have a pen, like this one, and I used to point through my presentation, and every time in the presentation where I knew they'd enthusiastically say yes, there's quite a few of these times, I used to click the pen. And then when we got to the end of the presentation and we were starting to go through the forms, and I was beginning to ask them questions, if I wanted a yes response, I'd click the pen again. Now, throughout the actual presentation, I'd probably clicked my pen 10 or 15 times, but nobody noticed it. They just think I'm playing with a pen while I'm doing the presentation. This anchors those yeses to the click, and then a bit later, every time I click the pen, they're going to want to say yes. So that gives you a little bit of an idea, a little bit of an insight into the kind of things that you can do on a covert level with people to manipulate them into doing something that you want them to do. Now, I mean, looking back now, I do think that what I did during these experiments was probably a little bit unethical. But all of those people really did need the products. All of those people had calling off periods, but I don't think I'd go and do something like that again. But at the time, I really wanted to test out these techniques, and that's the way I chose to do it. So that's kind of a little bit of my history with covert and conversational hypnosis patterns. I've given you a bit of an insight of what you can do with this, and I just want to quickly sum up. Of the 2 courses that I reviewed, well, of all the courses I reviewed, the 2 that come out on top by miles are Steve Peliari's The Art of Covert Hypnosis and Igor Ledochowski's Conversational Hypnosis. There are links to these. If you're watching this on YouTube, go down into the more info section below this video, and you'll see a link to both of those courses, so you can go and have a little bit more a look at them in more detail, what you get. And if you choose to purchase one of them, then go for whichever one's most suitable for you. If you want to use hypnosis to get women, and you want to use it to make yourself look cool and to just have a bit of a laugh, which is generally why I got into hypnosis in the early days, then go with Steve Peliari. If you want to use hypnosis to create win-win situations, to become a unstoppable negotiator, to be able to get people to do stuff that you want them to do and get them to feel good about it, or get your employees to be more efficient, all that kind of stuff, then go with Igor Ledochowski, because I think he is probably, in my opinion, the most effective negotiator on the planet at this time, because the techniques that he uses, those language patterns are phenomenal. And I mean, some of this stuff you'll have seen elsewhere, a lot of it is based on Milton Erickson, but a huge amount of it is based on his own experience. I mean, when you start using hypnosis yourself, you'll find that you use specific techniques that are unique to you, and you'll develop your own style. Igor's done that, and you can skip the learning curve and jump straight into his material and get a complete brain dump on it. Both of these courses contain several CDs that you'll be able to download and go through them. Both of these courses do require a little bit of effort. The Steve Peliari course, that's a bit more of a quick starter because you can just go to the section that's particularly you're interested in. You can jump right into it. Say for instance the hypnotic seduction, because I know a lot of people will be interested in that. I mean, that's probably CD 12, 13, 14, but you can jump straight to that CD. You can learn that material, and then you can take that in itself and go out and use it. You don't have to go through all the other CDs to have done that. But with the Igor Ledochowski material, you really, really want to go through this sequentially. What I did when I first started Igor's course is I transferred the material onto my iPod and I just listened to it. I didn't take any notes, I didn't do any of the exercises, I just listened to the whole lot all the way through. And I just let it sink in at a subconscious level, and then I went back to the beginning. I started going through the CDs one at a time, and I did the exercises that are included in the CDs, and I mean the stuff really, really does work. So those are my recommendations. I mean, I haven't really got anything I could say that's bad about either of these two courses. They are fantastic courses. Both of them, I mean, it's Steve, you can tell by their names, Steve Peliari and Igor Ledochowski. These are, they're not conventional English sounding names, and both these people have got accents, but I mean, I've had emails in the past of people saying that have tried Igor's course, and they've said that the accents are a little bit unusual and to understand. But both of these guys, the material that's recorded, it's recorded at a really comfortable slow pace. They've both got hypnotic voices, so it's quite slow, it's methodical. Igor's course, talking about the hypnotic voice, Igor's course, the whole thing is narrated by himself, and the material is to listen to it and just listen to the rhythms in his voice and the patterns and the inflections in the words that he uses. That is so powerful. That's such a good teaching aid. In fact, one of the CDs on Igor's course talks about hypnotic language and the way that you should communicate with people. And this, I mean, I'm going to give you this because this I think is a fantastic tip, and not many hypnotists do this. They all subscribe to the monotone. Don't do that. That's sort of nonsense. If you're saying excited, then sound excited. If you're saying sleepy, then sound sleepy. And this is what Igor says. So what you're doing when you go through your scripts is you're looking at the actual word, its meaning, and you're portraying that meaning in the actual tonalities that you're using. And that's really, really powerful stuff. Now, you don't have to really exaggerate this, but I mean, practice it. Get a list of words and just read them out as though you're trying to explain the emotions behind the word in your tonality. And once you've started doing that and you read like that, the material that you use for people, just in conversation, if you're telling a story or whatever, it becomes completely mesmerising. So that in itself, I mean, that's one of the CDs on Igor's course, and that's a real cracker, because for a long time I thought the hypnotic voice, the way most people do it, is just so boring and dull, and it's in the dark ages, and you shouldn't do that. I mean, if you've ever listened to some of Richard Bandler's material, his voice, he has got an amazing hypnotic voice. It's up and down, it's all over the place, he drags out his words, he gets excited, he squeals, he shouts. I mean, this is what you should be doing when using hypnosis. I mean, either conventional or conversational hypnosis. This is the stuff you should do. And Igor talks about that at length. Now, another guy, a really good hypnotist, the reason I've not reviewed him in this course is because he doesn't teach conversational or covert hypnosis, but it's Nathan Thomas. Nathan is Igor's apprentice, and Igor took Nathan under his wing, and he's pretty much taught him everything he knew. And if you ever listen to some of Nathan's material and the inflections in Nathan's voice, if you're a member of his blog at Keys to the Mind, he's got that same pattern. I mean, when you listen to them both, completely different accents, but the inflections in their voice, the way they say their words, the rhythms in the material, and Nathan sounds like a clone of Igor because he's applying all these strategies and techniques, and it's very, very hypnotic. So that stuff is incredibly valuable. So that's it. If you want to learn covert or conversational hypnosis, if it's about your ego and you want to get laid, you want to have a hell of a lot of fun, and you want to want people to be really impressed with you, then jump onto Steve Peliari's course. It really, really is worth it. If you want to explore the way you can use hypnosis to create win-win situations and become an expert negotiator, then Igor Ledochowski is your guy. And I personally don't think there's another hypnosis course, including my own, that surpasses Igor's. It really is the be-all and end-all. It's the best hypnosis course on the internet by miles. But it's very, very in-depth, it's a little bit intimidating, and I mean, if you've already studied hypnosis before, Igor's course is probably a good place to go. If you're new to this kind of stuff, then Steve's course. But as I say, depending on what your goals are, go for one or go for the other. So that's it. If you have any questions, any suggestions, or you just want to rant and rave, by all means leave some comments, ask me some questions, and I'll help you out and do whatever I can. If you're not interested whatsoever in covert or conversational hypnosis techniques, and you just want to use hypnosis to help people, or you just want to have a bit of fun with stage hypnosis, then don't buy Steve's or Igor's course, buy my course, which you can find at my website at inducingtrance.com. So click on the links below and get yourself over to Steve's site, download that cold reading book for free, and have a good look through his website to learn a bit more about his material, or click over to Igor's site and have a look at his material as well. That wraps us up. So you take care, and whichever you decide, I really hope you have a lot of fun, because hypnosis is going to completely change your life, and you're about to embark on a really truly amazing journey. This video has been a hell of a lot longer than I expected, but I really hope that it's given you a better understanding of your options and the action that you should take. So take care, bye bye.